Hello friends and welcome back. Today I'll be guiding you on how to cut and sew this off-shoulder top with princess dart bustier and puff sleeves. I made this nice top with full lining on it and I really love how it came out. Yeah guys, these are the materials needed for the top: a zipper, a fabric gum and a cotton lining. And here is my main fabric, which is about 1.5 meters. And I'm going to fold the fabric into two with its wrong side. Since I'll cut both the front and the back parts together, I'm going to fold it again as I'm showing you, leaving about 1.5 inches zip allowance at the center back. To begin, I'll first take the vertical measurements, and I'm measuring from 6 inches since it's an off-shoulder. I'll now take off-shoulder line to bust line measurement at 10 inches, off-shoulder line to under bust line measurement at 13 inches, and finally off-shoulder line to full length, which is 17 inches. I'm adding 1 inch folding allowance. So now I'll square straight line across the marked points with a ruler, and this is now the bust line. Here I'm squaring out the under bust line and the full line. I'm now going to mark horizontal measurements on the lines from the center front. I'll first mark half my shoulder measurement at the top edge, which is 7 inches, and then mark 7 inches on the chest line, which I haven't drawn yet. And what I'll do is to mark 8 inches and square a line across the mark. To get your chest line, take your bust measurement, divide it by 6 and then add 1.5 inches. From there, I'll go ahead to mark 7 inches on the chest line now. Then connect the two marks with a vertical line. Now I want to mark my bust span, which is also the nipple to nipple measurement on the waistline, under bust line and the bust line. In my case it's 3.5 inches, which is 7 divided by 2 gives you 3.5. After marking, I'll connect the marks with a vertical line like this. And then on the right side of the line on my waistline, I'll measure 1/2 inch. Again, measure 1 inch on the left side of the line. Then connect them to the under bust line with vertical lines. For a 40+ bust measurement, you can use 0.5 inches and 1.25 inches respectively. From the bust line, I'll come down by 1 inch like this, then use a curve ruler to connect some tiny curves to meet the lines I just drew. I already did a detailed tutorial on how to draft a princess dart bustier. I have included the link in the description. Now I'll measure 2 inches from the vertical line at the top edge, and I'll just connect it to the bust line with a straight line in that manner. From there, I'll now measure 0.5 inches on each side of the line I just drew, which I'll also connect to the bust line with a straight line like that. You can decide to go up by 0.5 inches from the bust line, and this is basically how to draw a princess dart bustier. The next thing guys is to measure quarter of my waist measurement on the waistline, which is 7 inches. I'll replace 1.5 inches for the darts, then add 1.5 inches stitching allowance. Again, on the chest line, I'll measure quarter of my bust measurement on it, which is the total bust measurement divided by 4. I'll mark it on the line, then use a curve ruler to draw a armhole curve. Remember, I took all the measurements from the center front. I'll also add 1.5 inches stitching allowance on the chest line, then add 1/2 inch for the dart. Now I'm going to draw the outline by connecting the marks on the waistline and the chest line with a ruler. And guys, I didn't replace the darts on the armhole area because the total measurement I need at this top edge is 11 inches. Here I have 14 inches, which is even more. Stitching the darts will reduce it to 12, where 1 inch is for stitching the sleeves on both sides. This top has a sweetheart neckline. Now I'm going to measure 2 inches down at the center front, then use a curve ruler to draw a curve like this. And after that, I'll now go ahead to cut on the outline. I'll then finish up by cutting the sweetheart neckline at the front part. And then for the back, I'm going to slash out 1/2 inch from the center back. You can still decide to use the neckline as it is. Moving forward, I'll now separate the back from the front part, then cut out the princess dart bustier, which is only on the front piece. Yeah guys, this is it after I was done cutting. I'll now trace out the lining and the fabric gum using these pieces, and same will apply to the back. I traced out the linings for both the front and the back parts. I've also ironed the fabric gum on all the pieces. I'll now head over to the sewing machine to stitch the front pieces like this, starting from the bottom edges. And I'll also join the lining pieces after I'm done with these pieces. Here is the front top part after stitching the princess dart bustier. I've stitched the lining through as I explained earlier, and it's time to stitch the lining to the fabric. I'll cut out this excess at the neckline guys, and I'm also going to stitch around the neckline area, and will show you what to do next after this. After stitching on the neckline area, I'm going to notch all the way to the end, and then flip the lining and make a top stitch as I'm showing you guys. And after that, I'll stitch also on the sides with 1/2 inch. I'm done stitching, and I've also turned everything inside out. The lining has covered the ugly side. I'll now put this front part aside and work on the back area. I've stitched the linings on the neckline only. I left the sides open because I'm supposed to cut out 1 inch from the sides, since I added all allowances for the front on the back too, including the princess dart bustier. That's exactly what I'm doing right now. After that, I'll again head over to the sewing machine to stitch the sides now. And I've stitched the darts with 1 inch from top to bottom. I did that for both. Now I'll bring back the front, put it on top of the back pieces, and trace out the center front on the back. This is the area I'll be fixing my zipper on. And it's a long hidden zipper, so I need to cut out the excess after I'm done stitching it at the center back. I'm done stitching the zipper at the back. I didn't stitch it to the top edge. I've also stitched on the sides with my measurements, and as you can see, it really looks nice already even before fixing the sleeves on it. And I'll just measure the top edge to see what I have left before fixing the sleeves. It is 11 3/4 inches, which is still very okay. These are the pieces I'll be using for the sleeves, and I'll just measure to see what I have. And on the longer side, I have 30 inches by 11 inches after stitching the elastic casing at the top and the bottom edge. So now I want to cut out the armhole on the sleeves too. And I'll do that by putting the top part at the top corner and then cut it out. And guys, after I was done cutting, I realized I didn't leave any stitching allowance and had to cut it a little bit again. To be on the safer side, make sure you cut yours while the top is turned on its wrong side. From there, I'll measure about 1.5 inches here and cut it out to give the sleeve some good shape. Now I'll pass these elastic bands through the casing I made earlier. They are 4. I'll pass them through on the top and the bottom casings. I'll just demonstrate how to do that using a safety pin. And these are the sleeves after adding the elastic and stitching on the sides. What I'll now do is to show you how to stitch it to the armhole. And first, I'll spread the seams around the armpit area on the top, then pin down starting from the middle part. I'll pin all the way to the other end. After I'm done pinning, I'm going to stitch on the pin area, and I'll do the same also for the other sleeve. I'm done stitching the sleeves to the armhole, and I'll now quickly show you how to finish up the bottom edges like I did for this other one. I'll fold the allowance like this and then stitch here. And after turning it inside out, you'll have something that looks like this. I'm then going to double hem the remaining edges. Here is our final look, guys, and thanks for watching. Kindly don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Let's meet in our next video.